Skull broadcast, because even the darkest stories deserve a bright punchline.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we're diving into a story of galactic proportions, one filled with corruption at the highest levels, intrigue that would make a Hutt blush, and the birth of a new power structure from the ashes of the old.
What's particularly fascinating about this story is, well, it shows us that galactic events, they aren't just about massive fleets and political treaties. It's about the real impact on everyday people like you and me.
Exactly. And to unravel this story, we've got a treasure trove of leaked reports, organizational profiles, the works. It's like piecing together a puzzle, but the stakes are, let's just say, a bit higher than your average game of sabacc.
High stakes is an understatement. We're talking about the potential reshaping of galactic power.
Right. So let's set the stage. We begin with the Galactic Concordiate, the GC. They were a dominant force, the glue that held the galaxy together for centuries.
Think of them as the guardians of order, a platform for diplomacy and cooperation between the vast and diverse worlds of the galaxy.
Until, of course, someone decides to play Space Emperor and throws the whole system into chaos. Enter Magistrate Drew Snots.
The irony is, a magistrate, well, they were meant to be temporary figureheads. They had these rotating 6-month terms to prevent any one person from grabbing too much power. Safeguards, you see.
But this is Drew Snots we're talking about. 2 years, this guy. He held on to power for 2 whole years, according to this report. GNS Y25 D319.txt. It paints a grim picture.
Yeah, the consequences were devastating. This report, it details how he completely halted food shipments to the Rondai system. People were on the brink of starvation while Snots, well, he lived lavishly.
Don't even get me started on the cancellation of elections. The guy was building himself a throne out of broken promises.
He even tried to implement this pay-for-play system for voting, basically allowing the wealthiest individuals to just buy influence. It undermined the very foundation of the GC.
The guy had a galactic tyrant starter kit, and he was using every single item. But here's where things take an interesting turn. Remember those canceled elections? It seems Snots, well, he underestimated a certain group with a particular set of skills.
Ah, yes, the Erodium Legion. Not exactly known for their patience or their love of corrupt officials.
Their reputation precedes them, and it usually involves explosions and a hefty dose of, "we warned you."
To be fair, the Erodium Legion had a reputation, for sure. Ruthless mercenaries, more comfortable in the shadows than the Senate chambers.
So you can imagine the collective gasp across the galaxy when the news broke. Snots, dragged out of his penthouse on Coruscant by a squad of legionnaires, kicking and screaming according to the report.
The report even quotes him yelling about being the only one who could save everyone. A classic case of a tyrant's delusion.
Delusional and behind bars. The latest reports indicate he's enjoying the accommodations, or lack thereof, of a permanent vacation on the prison planet Afrin IV.
A fitting end, perhaps. But it begs the question, what happens when a galaxy's governing body implodes like this? Where do the pieces fall?
That's the million-credit question. And the answer is already starting to take shape in the form of a new alliance.
An alliance forged from the remnants of the GC, with some rather interesting players. But we'll delve into that in just a bit.
It's like the saying goes, out with the old, in with the even more unpredictable. I mean, who could have predicted this kind of shakeup?
Well, I suppose that's the nature of chaos, isn't it? It breeds opportunity. And where there's opportunity, there are always those eager to seize it.
And seize it they have. The list of players stepping onto this newly formed galactic chessboard is, to put it mildly, intriguing. We're not just talking about your average interstellar empires, are we?
No, we are not. This new alliance, it represents a fascinating cross-section of galactic society, each with its own motivations for joining the fold.
So let's break it down, shall we? First up, we've got the Menagerie. Now, they're known for their almost utopian commitment to unity.
The Menagerie is quite remarkable. They've managed to achieve a level of cooperation and understanding across species and social divides that most can only dream of.
Right. It's like they looked at the galaxy's constant bickering and said, nah, not for us. But how does that translate into their goals for this new alliance?
Their commitment to unity isn't just some idealistic notion. They believe that true strength comes from collaboration, from finding common ground even in the face of differences. It's this principle that drives their participation in the alliance.
Makes sense. Okay, then we've got the Titan hegemony, and, let's just say their history isn't exactly squeaky clean.
The Titan hegemony has a reputation, yes. Centuries of expansionism, internal strife, moments of greatness, and periods of, let's say, less than stellar behavior.
Hey there, listeners. You love tuning into Black Skull Broadcast for the latest news and a few laughs, right?
Of course they do. And guess what? We're looking for sponsors to join the fun.
That's right. Whether you're looking to promote your brand, service, or galactic empire. Okay, maybe not that last one. We've got the audience to make your message heard.
And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to sponsor the best news podcast in the galaxy? It's a no-brainer.
So if you want to reach a loyal, engaged audience and help us keep the broadcast going strong,
Get in touch today. Partner with Black Skull Broadcast and let's make some noise together.
we report. You sponsor.
Everybody
wins.
Less than stellar being a diplomatic way of putting it. But they're here now, and they seem to be trying to present a new face to the galaxy. Do we buy it?
That's the question, isn't it? Their current leadership, they emphasize diplomacy and cooperation, but old habits can be hard to break, especially when you're talking about a power with a history of throwing its weight around.
Speaking of throwing weight around, we can't forget the Hapes Consortium. Talk about mysterious. They've been tucked away in their little corner of the galaxy for centuries, shrouded in nebulae and secrecy. What brings them out now?
It certainly sparked a lot of speculation. Some believe the Hapes Consortium, they see the writing on the wall, the galaxy is changing, and they can't afford to remain isolated any longer. Others suggest they're playing a deeper game, aiming to shape this new order from within.
It's almost like they were waiting for the right moment to make their move. And they wouldn't be the only ones, would they? I mean, we've also got some pretty big players from the corporate world joining the party.
The involvement of corporations like CNR Fleet Systems and Roll Recycling Corporation speaks volumes about the shifting power dynamics. We're moving away from a purely government-centric system to one where corporations are wielding considerable influence.
Let's be honest, some might say too much influence. I mean, CNR's got its hands in just about every military contract in the galaxy.
CNR Fleet Systems has never shied away from its ambition. They build weapons, powerful weapons, and their expertise is sought after by governments and private entities alike. It stands to reason they'd want to say in how this new galactic order is structured.
And what about Roll Recycling? I mean, they're the cleanup crew, right? The ones who come in after the battles are over.
Don't underestimate Roll Recycling.
Yeah.
In a galaxy littered with the wreckage of war, their expertise in salvage and resource reclamation makes them incredibly valuable. They literally turn trash into treasure.
Well, more like scrap metal into credits. Still, point taken. So we've got this unlikely alliance, all these different factions with their own agendas and motivations.
Indeed. It's a delicate balancing act, to say the least. And the question remains, can such a diverse group truly find common ground, or will their conflicting interests ultimately tear them apart?
It makes you wonder, with all these power players at the table, who's really calling the shots? Is there even a clear leader, or are we looking at galactic gridlock?
Well, that's the billion-credit question, isn't it? And to understand the answer, I think we need to look at the group that's been conspicuously absent from our discussion so far.
You mean the elephant in the room? Or should I say the battlecruiser in the asteroid field?
Precisely. The Erodium Legion. They've gone from galactic pariahs to power brokers in the blink of a hyperspace jump.
Talk about a glow-up. But you have to admit, there's something almost poetic about it, don't you think? The GC, the symbol of order, collapses, and from the ashes rises the Erodium Legion, notorious for, well, blowing things up.
Their history isn't exactly filled with diplomatic tea parties and trade negotiations, but then again, desperate times often call for unconventional solutions.
And there's nothing more unconventional than a former mercenary group calling for order. But let's be honest, this wouldn't be the first time we've seen a group reinvent themselves on the galactic stage.
Reinvention is a recurring theme in galactic history. The question is, how much of the Erodium Legion's transformation is genuine, and how much is strategic maneuvering?
Their profile, erodiumlegion.txt, paints a picture of an organization trying to shed its rough-around-the-edges image. I mean, they've even got a whole department dedicated to, get this, historical preservation.
They've invested heavily in infrastructure projects, medical facilities, even education initiatives in some sectors. It's a far cry from their days as guns for hire.
Maybe they've gone soft. Or maybe they've realized that true power lies not just in force, but in influence, in having a seat at the table where the rules are written.
I wouldn't rule out either possibility. But one thing is certain. Their involvement adds a whole new layer of complexity to this already tangled web of alliances.
It's enough to make your head spin, trying to keep track of who's aligned with whom and who's planning to double-cross who next. So where does that leave us, the everyday citizens just trying to navigate this ever-shifting galactic landscape?
In a state of flux, much like the galaxy itself. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Change, while often unsettling, can also bring about progress.
Progress. It's a word that's been thrown around a lot these days, but does it actually mean anything in a galaxy where power seems to shift with the tides?
That's a question we all have to grapple with. And the answer, like most things in life, is rarely simple or straightforward.
No easy answers, huh? Well, listeners, there you have it. A glimpse into the tangled web of galactic politics where power is fluid, alliances are fragile, and the only constant is change.
And as we navigate this uncertain future, one thing remains clear. The choices made today will shape the galaxy for generations to come.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, keep asking the tough questions. Because in a galaxy this vast and this complex, the truth is out there, waiting to be discovered. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive, signing off.